Is extracting wool harmful for sheep? Depends. Shearing a sheep is not inherently harmful. However, most of the wool for clothing, around 80%, comes from Australia. These animals are treated as mere commodities. Videos have surfaced sheep shearers in Australia violently punched these animals in the face and beat and jabbed them in the head with sharp metal clippers and even a hammer. Merino sheep are bred to have wrinkly skin, which means more wool per animal. This unnatural overload of wool causes many sheep to collapse and even die of heat exhaustion during hot months, and the wrinkles collect moisture, especially under the tail. Attracted to the moisture, flies lay eggs in the folds of skin, and the hatched maggots can eat the sheep alive, a condition known as fly strike. The sheep's flesh is slowly consumed by thousands of swarming maggots until death finally results. Australian farmers perform a barbaric procedure called mulesing, even though it is not commonly practiced anywhere else in the world. In mulesing, workers force live sheep onto their backs, restrain their legs between metal bars and, often without any painkillers whatsoever, cut chunks of flesh from the animal's backsides or attach vice-like clamps to their flesh until it dies and sloughs off. What it involves is the slicing away, literally, of folds of skin from beneath the sheep's tail area using shears. It is done without anesthetic. The way the sheep is cut is, 2 cuts down the tail, 2 down beside the anus and then to the vulva and finally across the top of the tail. Museling is justified by being the most common prevention antidote to fly strike. To compound matters, merino sheep in Australia have been bred to hold half their body weight in wool. By increasing the folds in the sheep's skin, the moist area is increased, which leads to more chance of fly strike. Also, there is a myth that sheep need to be sheared. Sheep grow wool naturally, and unless bred to overproduce they grow just enough wool for protection from the cold and to keep cool in the summer, hence wild sheep are not sheared, they shed when it is of benefit to them. In Australia an estimated 1 million sheep die from exposure after premature shearing. In addition, every year, in Australia alone, about 10 million lambs die before they are more than a few days old. This is due largely to unmanageable numbers of sheep and inadequate stockmen. The act of shearing itself, no more than a close haircut. What surrounds it on the other hand. As one of the perhaps 3 resident Cora shepherds, smiley face, I feel qualified to answer this. My family had a herd of 20, later 100 sheep back in Romania, and between being 16 years old to perhaps 23 years old I was in charge of them from June to September. I would take an early vacation from school in early May to help with the shearing. Once all chances of a frost were gone, I would relieve the sheep of their thick winter coat using manual, oversized shears. Now when we had few sheep, we knew them all by name and raised them from lamb. They would be quite tame and docile and would come willingly when called. They would struggle a bit perhaps in knowing how to immobilize them without hurting them matters, then once they realized nothing harmful was happening they would settle down to ruminate while I would get going with the shearing, the older ones more readily than the young ones. Easy and happy. When we got 100 on the other hand. Well. They lost individuality. And some of them sheep were real assholes, always ready to pull a nasty one on you. And others still would just spook for no apparent reason and hurt you just the same. By sheer boredom, fatigue and stress, my temper got ever shorter. Abuse followed. Not to the point of death, that would have been a waste and a loss, but yeah, pretty physical.